What's up, guys? It's Elliot here, and today I'm bringing you my official Diva guide. I just want to start talking about why she's so good in Season 3, because the recent buffs have made her basically just so good, so overpowered, and just super strong. Initially, I guess they tried to buff her to compete with Winston for the role of a dive tank, but instead they kind of just made her into a contender for DPS and just is insanely good at it. So the reason they buffed her for tanking purposes was they gave her an extra 100 HP, and that really just solidified her as just so much harder to kill. It nullified Zarya's counter her, because obviously Zarya's beam could go right through her defense matrix, but the extra 100 HP makes it really difficult for that counter to work, and really for anyone. By the time defense matrix is off cooldown, you can't really deal enough damage to her till before it can come back up and just block it. And that's the other thing that makes her a great tank. Defense matrix can single-handedly just nullify the enemy team, especially in a meta where Soldier is so strong. Defense matrix can just pick Soldier's bullets out of the air and protect people. It's so strong because if maybe someone gets hooked, a defense matrix could put in the way. All incoming damage can be blocked when Ryan shields goes down, so you can kind of rotate with Ryan and Diva on defense or something to block damage. And it's just incredibly strong to keep yourself alive. And it makes her really just a pain in the ass to deal with. And that's the best thing, is because there's nothing in this game that can completely nullify something like Defense Matrix can. And even though Ryan's shield can block a huge area, it still can go down, but Defense Matrix is just infinite cooldown. So if you use it wisely and you don't overuse it to the point where you're not nullifying anything and then your charge goes down on it and you have to let it come back up, you can just keep blocking for ages, and if nothing's dying on your team should be able to get a kill on the other team, and then you get the man advantage and you can win the fight. And that's just why she's been so strong, defensively speaking. Now, the other thing that makes her so strong is offensively speaking, and that is that her dive and her boost is so good. And that's because on offense, she can go right at DPS, she can fly right in, and they actually buffed her damage as well. Well, not directly, but because they made her move faster while dealing damage, so you can keep up with things. On offense, you can dive the enemy supports, you can get behind, you can get on the point, and when people come back to contest you, you can just kill them because your damage is so good, and of course, defense matrix and tanking are so hard to kill, it requires commitment. Now, obviously, she can be killed, she's not amazingly overpowered in some, so where she can't die at all, but the ability to just dive in, cause havoc, and make multiple people commit means your team can win a fight at the choke. Because if not only do you guys get a man-up advantage, or you go 5-on-5, you can maybe even go 5-on-4 or even 5-on-3, depending on how many people are distracted by Diva coming in, because she's just so powerful. Now, defensively speaking, she's super good to counter enemy dives, because if they have a Genji or something, or even another Diva flying in onto the point from a choke, you can fly after them and you can commit 1-on-1, which means your team's still fighting 5-on-5. And because their damage is so good, you can actually kill them, get the man advantage, and come back. And it's just so strong because you provide your team all the advantages and all the necessity, and you can deal with basically everything they're throwing at you. She's super good at fighting Pharahs too, because Defense Matrix can knock out the rockets, and that's a huge issue in Season 3, especially at lower ranks. And it makes Diva insanely strong to play offense or defense, just because the skills in her kit are just so useful and they're so strong. And the other thing is you can't even ignore little Diva out of the suit. And while a lot of people are oh, she's kind of weak, she can heal, it's hard to hit her sometimes, and she's very mobile and very quick, and the damage her gun does is really strong, and that's something you can't ignore. And she can get her ulti back pretty quickly, and the damage is, again, not to be scoffed at. But the main purpose of this is she can really dodge enemy ults very effectively. And it's even more of her tanking prowess, is that enemy ult, especially an enemy Diva ult, can knock her out of her mech, but they can't knock her out of the fight entirely. And a little Diva bouncing around, you're trying to clean up on her, she can get her mech back, and if your team coordinates well, she can stay around in the fight and just hang on. And that's really important. But obviously, speaking about the ult and everything, that is probably the most important part of Diva. And what makes her so good is her ult has team wipe potential. It does massive damage, and it's so good. Self-destruct is one of the best, probably, I think, offensive ults in the game, especially from a tank. It's so good. It can really clear space very well because you have to respond to it. And it's just extremely good. But the thing is, people at the beginning of the game had no idea how to deal with it. They just it came in and they were crap, and then they just died. But now people figure out how to deal with it, so you have to have the element of surprise. you need to launch diva ults from weird angles. You want to try to get behind something, you want to launch from an angle they're not expecting, maybe from the back, kind of get behind them with your dive ability. Some people use it as a last resort, and they're about to come out of mech and they use it. If you should only do that if you're on the point, but that's the main thing. You want to throw diva ult kind of at points. You want to be able to wipe a bunch of them because that's where they're going to be standing. And that's where the crowd control aspect comes in. If they're on the point at the end, you want to put it on the point. And that's the main thing. So a lot of the times what I do is if I'm at the area they're fighting at and there's open space, I will fly up and launch it because it can clutter off ceilings, or it can just go way up and it can distract enemy Ryan. And then, of course, if he's looking up and down, you can shoot at him, and it's super good. And that's the main thing, is because if it goes high in the sky, it can see over like cover, and you want to obviously put that at angles that you can maximize it at. And getting good at diva ults is all about knowing the angles and the ways to throw it so the enemy team can't hide from it. And that's the other thing, is speaking of hiding from it, like I had just said, Ryan's shield can block it, and that's the main thing. One of the popular combos is you can throw a diva ult in, and Ryan will get distracted. But if the Ryan's blocking it, if you have a Ryan to pin him out of the way, you can do massive damage. Actually, Sombra is one of her main uses, can be, obviously, if you're throwing a diva ult to like get rid of all barriers that would potentially block it. And those are like two really good ways to make diva ult super effective. So typically I try to throw it, try to get the Ryan first and then throw it if I can. But if not, I'm going to use it and put it high in the sky, make the Ryan feel really awkward, and really put him out of place with the rest of his team. And that's the point of diva ult, is getting their team out of place and trying to get a couple kills. Because obviously with their ult, if you can get 1 or 2 kills, you're giving your team a huge advantage. And that's the main thing. While it does have team wipe potential, you really are using it a lot more at high levels for zoning and just trying to get 1 kill, especially on like an immobile support or something, maybe 1 or 2 of them, as well as getting them off the point and like splitting their team up so you guys can have an easier dive on them. And of course, you get your mech right back with diva, and if you can do it effectively, you really can go on massive streaks without dying. And diva can really contest that, especially in the pro scene. She's used almost as just like a second DPS now. And just the ability to like not die and dive and deal massive damage really means that you can get gold elims and gold damage done in games, very little problem. And shooting forever is just the main point of that. It's very broken. I'm not sure. They will probably have to nerf her in the future. I think maybe they nerf her to the point where Zarya can deal with her again, because that was a pretty good counter in the past. They might have to nerf how long defense matrix lasts. I don't know if they'll take away the health, because the health really makes her tanking better, as I think they will probably nerf her damage to make her less of a DPS threat. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this guy. I hope you can play diva better. I hope you can really focus in on using her correctly instead of just like going crazy as people do in quick play sometimes, and hopefully getting more value out of her ults and stuff to win more games, because it is so groundbreaking. So thanks again. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see ya.